The Caitlin Clark show has ended, or at least the college version of it has. And so has my love affair with women's basketball in college or the professional ranks. I'll get into it today. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining me. Awesome show planned for you today. TJ Moe in studio with us here in Nashville. Round of applause, guys. Oh, I'm only one clapping, but TJ Moe's here. No one else cares that you're here, TJ. We're going to do a fantastic show, fantastic conversation. A lot of things to discuss coming off the Women's National Championship game. First thing you guys can do is go to blazetv.com and buy a subscription to Blaze TV. It's the greatest thing you can do to support this show and this channel, blazetv.com. You don't have to fight a Twitter out. You don't have to fight an algorithm, a YouTube algorithm, an Apple algorithm, any of that. Go to blazetv.com/fearless. Get your subscription to Blaze TV, $20 off if you use my promo code fearless. Do that, please. I want to thank our good friends at Good Ranchers for sponsoring today's episode of Fearless. Good Ranchers is locking in your price until 2026 when you subscribe to any of their boxes of 100% American meat and seafood. Use my code FEARLESS at goodranchers.com and save 10%. Thank you, Good Ranchers, for supporting this show. We need to make sure we're supporting Good Ranchers. TJ, Shemeka Michelle is going to join us later in the discussion. I don't know how long I'm going to ramble here. TJ is going to jump in, and then me and him may ramble for God knows how long. But prepare for that because I think I have a great fire starter for us to kind of end Fearless's celebration of women's basketball. And we've been celebrating it for 3 or 4 or 5 months and celebrating Caitlin Clark ever since last year. Well, now it's all over. It's all, this is my swan song, farewell song to women's college hoops or just to women's basketball. But anyway, yesterday, the Democratic National Committee closed its annual sports convention inside Cleveland's Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, hosting the title game of the women's NCAA tournament. Dawn Staley's South Carolina Gamecocks rebounded Caitlin Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes into submission, 87-75, putting a bow on the most remarkable and enlightening season of women's hoops in this nation's history. Many of you undoubtedly did not know women's basketball is deeply connected to the Democratic politic machine. It is. The sports-loving base of the Democratic Party buys WNBA season tickets, treats the women's Final Four as its spring break freaknik, and sees the rise of women's hoops as a key indicator in the destruction of the patriarchy. The Dawn and Caitlin title matchup symbolized the delivery of a dream Title IX vowed 52 years ago to grant women fulfillment and happiness through increased masculinity. Turns out, the dream is really a nightmare. That's the lesson of the Dawn and Caitlin show and this entire women's basketball season. Be careful of what you wish for. Caitlin Clark's ascension as a superstar athlete, the most influential jock of 2024, has exposed the brutal reality of Democratic Party-orchestrated egalitarianism. For those of you who want women to run the world, this year of women's college basketball previewed what that world would look like. For the sins of being white, heterosexual, and talented, Caitlin Clark's basketball peers have unleashed a level of envy and vitriol we haven't seen since Tanya Harding conspired with Jeff Gillooly before the 1994 U.S. Figure Skating Championship. From Cheryl Swopes to Angel Reese to Diana Taurasi to Lynette Woodard to Breanna Stewart, some of the greatest players in women's basketball history have taken shots at Caitlin Clark. In the media, it's been much worse. Pundits have twisted themselves into pretzels trying to articulate arguments that diminish Clark's accomplishments. Clark chose to play for her home state squad, leading the Hawkeyes to back-to-back NCAA title games. She hasn't played with a single WNBA caliber player. But the sports pundits have led the argument that she can't be considered the greatest player because she never won a title in 4 years at Iowa. The pundits also pretend that Clark taunted her opponents in the same fashion Reese taunted Clark after last year's championship game. It's a lie. I want to stop right here for a second and play you and expose to you the lie that has been told about Caitlin Clark as it relates to taunting. We've seen countless people saying, well, she did the can't see me thing to Haley Van Leith when she was at Louisville, and Angel Reese only did what Caitlin Clark had already done. Let's play the clip. I believe it's SOT number 6. Haley Van Leith explaining what happened between her and Caitlin Clark last year.
So when Caitlin Clark did the "you can't see me" gesture, it was against Louisville, and it looked like it was directed towards you. Walk me through it from your vantage point with Caitlin Clark.
It was actually hilarious because right after the game, I texted her and I was like, the media is dumb. I'm sorry. Like, you guys have they just make stuff up. And then they just put it all over the internet and everyone thinks it's true. Like, it's just hilarious. We were laughing about it because she did it to her strength coach. Like, she didn't do it to anyone on our team, especially me. Definitely not towards me. She did it to her strength coach, and it wasn't even in a moment where I didn't even see it in the game. I was probably, dribbling the ball up the court after she just hit a 3 in our face. So, it's just funny how, camera angles and perceptions are skewed through the media, but it was hilarious. We laughed about it after.
Wrong. You got
oh my gosh. I don't even remember, I didn't even see it happen. So my perception, I don't even have one because I didn't even know it happened until I saw it over Instagram later. No.
There you go. All year we've sat and listened to people in the media lie about Caitlin Clark in order to defend Angel Reese. Angel Reese stalked Caitlin Clark on the court for about 7 to 10 seconds, following her around, taunting her. And everybody, Caitlin Clark did it first. Remember what she did to Louisville? There's no one that ever believed that. This is the kind of lies and distortions that have been used to try to diminish Caitlin Clark all season. Caitlin Clark has been a blessing and a curse for women's basketball. She's drawn unprecedented attention to the sport. But many people do not like what they saw and have seen. The increased masculinity of women mixed with their emotions has created a wickedness that you can't unsee once you've seen it. They're unlikable. I will not watch Clark play in the WNBA. No way. I enjoyed Clark in a college environment because the collegiate game still has the thinnest veneer of purity. The majority of women's college players are not tatted from head to toe. They're not women impersonating men. I've never had an interest in drag shows. I don't want to see men dress like women or women behave and look like men. Caitlin Clark is making a huge mistake entering the WNBA. She should return to college basketball for a 5th season. In my opinion, she could earn more than $20 million in name, image, and likeness. She could retire, marry her boyfriend, and be a lifetime ambassador for Iowa and women's college hoops. She will not survive what awaits her in the WNBA. The culture of the league is racist and hostile to heterosexuality. Honestly, the culture of women's basketball is racist and hostile to heterosexuality. I want to pause there for a moment because I think many of you will think that I'm exaggerating, and I'm not. There have been countless WNBA players, heterosexual WNBA players, talk about the bullying and the harassment they receive in the WNBA. There are countless parents of athletes who can attest and talk about what their daughters go through when they enter high-level college athletics and professional athletics in women's sports and the level of harassment they are subjected to bow to the LGBTQ alphabet mafia. If heterosexual people were bullying homosexual people the way the opposite is happening in the WNBA, there would be countless stories. Again, the Washington Post just did some long profile piece on Kim Mulkey because some player allegedly said she got suspended because Kim Mulkey was uncomfortable with her sexuality. She offered no proof. It was a lie. Kim Mulkey would never do what the player is alleging done. You can't survive in women's basketball as a coach, a leader, as a player, and have hostility towards the LGBTQ. It can't be done. But there's the other side of this whole Dawn and Caitlin show. Dawn Staley epitomizes women's basketball. She's the golden child. On Saturday, the South Carolina coach affirmed her support for mentally ill men being allowed to compete in women's sports. Take a listen for yourself. She's asked a very solid question by a reporter for Outkick, and she blew it.
Dan Zakrzewski, Outkick coach, you just talked about, what a massive weekend this is, obviously, for women's basketball, women's sports in general. One of the major issues facing women's sports right now is the discussion topic about the inclusion of transgender athletes, biological males, in women's sports. I was wondering if you would tell me your position on that issue.
Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you? I'm under the opinion of if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion. You want me to go deeper?
Do you think transgender women should be able to participate
that's your question
in
you want
basketball?
Me to ask. You want to ask, so I'll give you that. Yes. So now the barnstorm of people are going to flood my timeline and be a distraction to me on one of the biggest days of our game. And I'm okay with that. I really am.
So Dawn Staley thinks being a man or a woman is a matter of consideration. It's an opinion. Being a man or woman is an opinion. Are you following this? Women's basketball represents the mindset of the Democratic Party. It's a coalition of racist and insane women determined to uproot the patriarchy, the nuclear family, and biblical values. Staley represents the stereotypical black female Democrat. Yes, I said it. She claims to serve God while distancing herself from what is actually in the Bible. I'm sorry, but this is just factual. And this doesn't come from a place of hatred. It just comes from a place of frustration. That this is what the Democrat Party has done to black women and feminists. They've convinced you that being a Democrat is more important than being obedient to God. And they've convinced you that anything the Democrat Party says, we can fix and fit into, and we can massage the Bible, and we can massage your values and priorities and perspectives. We can massage all that to fit our definition of how we think the world should go. So you can be in complete objection to God, still be a Christian, and meet all the requirements for the Democratic Party. This is the mindset and the reality of many feminist women, but in particular black women throughout the United States of America. This Dawn Staley put on an incredible performance in my mind yesterday after winning the championship. This was calculated and scripted in my view. And I'm more than willing to be proven wrong. I would love to hear Dawn expound on her faith. I would love it. And I would love, now that she has stated a faith and staked out a clear position on her faith, I got some follow-up questions that the kid from Outkick, the young man from Outkick, maybe wasn't prepared to ask. But I want, hey, Dawn, you're a believer. How does transgenderism work with what God says? Explain that to me. And I would love to hear that answer. But after the game, Dawn Staley put on an Academy Award performance professing her faith in God. Take a listen.
I mean, God is funny like that. He's funny. He rips your heart out and he makes you believe. He makes you believe the unimaginable. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus, is what I heard at the end of that. And yesterday, when I listened, I didn't hear the thank you, Jesus, but I just heard it now, just clear as day. So Dawn Staley, and I don't want to throw a distraction in here, but unlike the Twitter conversation I had going back and forth with Ben Watson this weekend, Ben Watson disconnected God and Jesus. Dawn Staley just appropriately connected God and Jesus. And so she's on the record. What God she's serving. We now have a standard. Again, it's no different than Deion Sanders. Jesus comes out of his mouth. He loves to put out videos. And so now let's hold her to the standard. Because it's no different than what I'm asking y'all to do to me. Hold me to the standard. The reason I'm suspicious, because to me, someone who's lived a sinful life, I do a lot of repenting and a lot of public confessing and a lot of acknowledging I was a complete idiot and fool. And here's the things I've had to do to fall in line and to fall into obedience. I can't wait to hear Dawn Staley get asked some follow-up questions now that I know she's claiming the same Jesus Christ that I claim and other Christians claim. But I'm just sorry, you cannot affirm transgenderism one day and the God described in the Bible the next day. It's a contradiction. You can't be a flaming racist smearing BYU volleyball fans and Iowa coach Lisa Bluter 1 year ago, and then the next year be a Bible-thumping Christian without publicly acknowledging your past mistakes. It just doesn't work that way. I'm not buying what Dawn Staley is selling. I can be convinced, but right now I'm not buying it. This year's Women's Final Four was a giant stage for the feminist movement and the Democratic Party. Anyone paying attention shouldn't like what they saw. You saw people hate Caitlin Clark because of the color of her skin and her perceived sexuality. You saw Staley put on a performance intended to convince Christians that their beliefs do not need to align with the God described in the Bible. You saw messaging and a culture consistent with the DNC, Democratic National Committee. That's what we witnessed this entire basketball season. It's been an eye-opening experience for me. I'm not going to say I made a mistake falling in love with Caitlin Clark and women's basketball and following it all this season. I enjoyed it. I really did. I like to see athletes compete that are free of all the tattoos and all the hip hop, all the stuff that's been smothered in sports and baked into sports. You gotta look like you just came off a rap stage or just came out of prison to play in the NBA or NFL. That all the music sounds like it's a prison concert. And it's just hard to watch. It's hard to stomach. So here comes a group of kids out of Iowa that look like normal women, aren't all tatted up. They listen to music that maybe I don't know, but it ain't cursing at me. It ain't calling. It's not telling me to kill other black people. It's not telling me that I gotta have gold chains around my neck and gold grills and all that. It's just basketball with women who look like women who, to me, weren't pretending to be masculine, weren't all tatted up. And so people fell in love with it because that's what we've actually been missing in sports. And there's parts of me that, just as I talk about it and think about it out loud, this is what sports fans have been longing for. And there's a lesson in this for all the sports leagues that will fly over their head. We just watched one woman, take a sport that no one cared about and probably increase the overall television ratings and the number of people that watch college basketball, women's college basketball this year. I bet you she increased it by 500% in totality. And all that they did was, and she is a phenomenal player and, shoots from deep. But mostly, trust me, if she had been all tatted up and she had been an out of the, deep voice like Brittany Griner and just an out of the closet LGBT, I don't think as many people would have tuned in. And so any person running a league, running a sport, you just got a great example of what a little traditional American values would do for your ratings. And it doesn't matter whether it comes in a white or black wrap packaging, because she just did what Michael Jordan did for the NBA. And Michael Jordan is about as dark-skinned as any black person I know. But he wasn't all tatted up. He told everybody, no, he didn't tell, because that's an exaggerated made-up thing. But basically, his position was, I'm not picking a side politically. I'm going to go out here and play basketball at a high level. I'm going to be respectful and celebrate my father and mother and my upbringing. I'm not going to take a dump on this country that's making me millions of dollars and allowing me to provide for my family. People loved Michael Jordan, and they tuned in to see him play. If anybody was serious about growing their sports in traction and relevancy and selling tickets and drawing a bigger audience, they would follow the Caitlin Clark, Michael Jordan model. Been proven. It's time tested. It still works. We just watched it work at an amazing level. People are so thirsty. It's no different than the Tom Cruise movie that, I'm not that big of a fan of, Top Gun. A mediocre movie that TJ and Bobby Harrington and Anthony lost their minds over and acted like it was Gone with the Wind or The Godfather. That's how thirsty they are for something that has any kind of traditional values. They'd watch something mediocre and say, man, this was awesome.
It's a great movie.
But that's how thirsty the public is. And any businessman, any person that wasn't driven by an agenda would be out making more Top Guns and making more Caitlin Clarks and Michael Jordans than making LeBron James and these other tatted up idiots who want to take a knee and pretend like this country is killing black men at every turn. That's if they wanted to sell tickets and wanted their sports more relevant. But they don't. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking to destroy this country. And you know what it looks like? It looks like everything we saw as it relates to Caitlin Clark in this women's basketball season. I'm leaving this experience exhausted by the racism, exhausted by the jealousy, and exhausted by the phony Christianity and the promotion of transgenderism that's at the heart of this whole women's basketball deal. Caitlin Clark just exposed everybody in sports. If they wanted success, it would mimic the behavior of the Iowa basketball program and Caitlin Clark. And then they expose to you like, no, we actually hate heterosexual women. We actually hate white people that will not get on board with our leftist agenda, and we will destroy them. And so I'm Caitlin Clark, run off to the WNBA. They're going to destroy you. I won't be there to witness it. I will not watch. I have no idea why you're running off into that hellhole. And to watch all these women try to backtrack, and that's a lot of what Dawn Staley was doing yesterday. She celebrated Caitlin Clark, and Sue Bird now that Caitlin Clark's lost, they all want to hop on board and celebrate Caitlin Clark. It's all backtracking. A memo went out before that game yesterday. It was like, hey, guys, we're making a fool of ourselves. We're pissing everyone off. We're exposing how wicked and demonic and racist we are. Sue Bird, cut it out. Diana Taurasi, cut it out. Lynette Woodard, put out an apology. Dawn Staley, run out here and continue this gimmick that you love God and that, Caitlin Clark is great. You know how long ago Dawn Staley could have told everybody, hey, get up off of Caitlin Clark's back? You know how long ago she could have done that? But she waited until after she won a championship. And now it's time to back off and tell everybody. She could have done that when some woman she didn't know that had nothing to do with women's college basketball, Rachel Richardson or whatever the Duke volleyball player was, when her auntie talked her into claiming that BY students chanted the N-word at her, Dawn Staley jumped in this conversation from South Carolina. Duke is playing BYU in Utah in volleyball. Dawn Staley jumped in that conversation all the way from South Carolina to defend Rachel Richardson, who was lying. Caitlin Clark gets abused all season. Everybody's trying to denigrate and diminish her. Dawn Staley's quiet and said, well, now that I got my championship, now God is good. And ain't God funny? And God answers all prayers. And oh, I'm so highly favored now that I've won a champion. You was favored long before you won your first championship, and this is your third. And now you got all these crocodile tears on your third championship. You're more emotional about a third championship. You've lost one game in 2 years. And now, oh God, isn't God so good? I just won my third championship. And I'm just bent over and I'm crying because I've lost one game in 2 years. And now this is proof of how good God is. Dawn Staley won a championship. God is good. Well, had you lost, what would you have said? When you lost last year, what did you talk about how good God was then? Last year, when Caitlin Clark beat you, you should have come out and said what you really wanted to say. I hate that white bitch, and I'm glad we beat her. That's what you really wanted to say, Dawn. In my opinion, I'm speculating here. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'll be willing to prove wrong, and I'll come on here and acknowledge it. If your faith is real, welcome to the party. And I told TJ before the show, if you're just starting your journey, I'm not that far ahead of you. I'll wait and let you catch up. I won't have to wait that long because I'm not much further along than you. I'm really no further along than you. But please come on up here and catch up and start copying to that foul shit you were doing. I'm sorry, she's making me act like her, but she's taking me there. I promise I done got hot and sweaty. I'm always cold in this. Let me, hold on, TJ. Let me cool off, and I gotta be careful. I done embarrassed our sponsors by cursing. Let me pause for a moment. There are a lot of companies out there working against you, your marriage, or your family. You've heard about them on this show, but here's one company that is on your side, our friends at Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes has been the #1 trusted software for over 23 years for Christians seeking to live a porn-free life. I know pornography isn't an easy topic to hear about, but it must be talked about. It's a silent killer. Porn is damaging marriages, families, and impacting the work of the church by holding people hostage to this secret sin. Maybe you've experienced this in your life or seen this in the life of someone you love. Victory by Covenantized is a powerful tool that helps Christians who are serious and want to quit porn for good or never start. Victory combines industry-leading technology with decades of experience in leadership and recovery, content, accountability, and behavioral change. Scripture teaches us the importance of being accountable. Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. James 5:16. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Once installed, the Victory app runs silently in the background of your devices and uses cutting-edge AI technology to watch the screen for behavior that doesn't match your goals. Next, you will invite a trusted friend to be your ally. This is someone that can walk beside you through the ups and downs of recovery. Your ally will get push notifications of any porn use and reminders to have accountability conversations, even if everything is going well. Living a porn-free life will bring you a new freedom to live honestly, and remember, accountability is not others calling you out on your sin, but it's others calling you up to the person you are in Christ. So what are you waiting for? Anyone can get started on their path to recovery for free by visiting covenantized.com and using my promo code FEARLESS for 30 days free, or by clicking on the link in the show notes today. All right, TJ.
Down yet?
Almost. Where did I want to start? Oh, I know I just went on this unbelievable rant about Dawn Staley, but I want to go back to Caitlin Clark before I move you to Dawn Staley. And maybe that's a mistake, but the audience, just stick with me. My argument that Caitlin Clark is making a mistake going to the WNBA. I don't think it's the right move. And I do think she'll get swallowed up and perhaps changed by her experience in that league.
Explain that a little further. What do you swallowed up and changed? What do you mean by that?
I think that, and again, she has not made a big public display of her beliefs, and so of her faith, and I'm making an assumption. But she does appear to be heterosexual and has a boyfriend that does he work for the Fever or the Pacers? He works for one of the teams in Indiana, one of the basketball teams in Indiana. I just think that environment in the WNBA is so hostile to heterosexual white people and people of faith that either she's going to get bullied and abused at such a level that it's just not worth it, or she's going to end up bowing to the woke mob in the WNBA. And so I would just avoid it. It's not worth it.
Do you remember, well, you were a little bit different than me. You got just as excited about journalism, I think, as you were about football. But I think the average player, when they quit playing sports, is depressed for a very long time. I've heard, I think it was, maybe it was TJ Lang or one of the Lyman recently said, it's easier to identify the people who retire from playing sports and don't get depressed than the ones who do, because it's virtually everybody. So you're talking about a girl that is at the top of her sport, the most talked about person probably today in America. It's been a slow news week for about 2 weeks now. Caitlin Clark she's my entire timeline. And you're saying go from that being on every TV commercial. And, she's with, Nike was tweeting out about Caitlin Clark in the Next Chapter yesterday. You go from getting the most attention, and in particular with guys like attention, women really like attention. So you're saying this is virtually everything she does is make news without doing anything to make news. And she's ultra competitive. And then to turn that off might kill her. I mean, I don't know how you go from that. I mean, you look at what social media, just regular social media, does to women. It's destroying them. And this is for 12, 15, whatever. This type of attention, just to shut the faucet off, I don't see it.
Let me counter your point. You said walking away might kill her. I'm saying walking into the WNBA will kill her. And so I'm going to say, and look, I'm sure Tiger Woods is probably still in this moment quite pleased with the life that he chose. Eventually, there's going to come a day where he's going to realize, oh no, I made a horrible mistake. And the whole golf thing, an obsession about golf, blah, blah, blah. That's why 2009 Thanksgiving blew up in my face. That's why me and the mother of my kids are not together. That's, man, I made a lot of money and got a lot of attention, but that attention and that addiction to that attention harmed me. And it's probably why I have some sort of drug addiction that I can't beat. And again, when I say drug addiction, I mean the sleeping stuff, AIDS he took, whatever led to the
addiction. He went to
sex addiction, the crack. And so all those things will kill you. And so my advice to Caitlin Clark, and again, I'm not expecting her to take it, but my advice is like, if you go back and play college basketball one more year, exist in that bubble of love inside of Iowa, make $20 million next year. You're going to get less attention, I believe, and have less relevancy in the WNBA than you would have, far less than you would have at Iowa, making more money. And then you're 20. You've played 5 years of basketball. You've made a bunch of money. Go raise kids. Go duplicate what your parents have pulled off. Go do that with a pocket full of money and the ability to help young female athletes, mentor them, disciple them, maybe get involved in coaching. That would be more rewarding than subjecting yourself to Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Breanna Stewart, and the rest of that very hostile group of people awaiting you in the WNBA.
Yeah. So her boyfriend does work for the Pacers. So that's what you're talking about. If with the Fever, whoever the Indiana team, they'd be in the same area. And I think, for the record, I think the decision's made. It seems like we're arguing something that. But
well, you can change your mind. But go ahead.
Yeah. I actually think your point about him working in Indiana may be the number one reason she's leaving. It's like, this will never happen again. I may marry this dude. We can work in the same city. That may be the number one factor, truly. Because I think she likes Iowa. She's no dummy. She sees that, hey, this little bubble that I'm living in doesn't exist at LSU. I played them. It doesn't exist at South Carolina. I played them. And none of my teammates are coming with me. My coach isn't coming with me to the WNBA. But all those girls I'm playing against are going to be in the WNBA. She hears all the nonsense from Diana Taurasi and Breanna Stewart. And so I'm with you. I guess my argument is just that so you brought up Tiger. I would bring up Michael Jordan, who I don't think will ever hit that moment. I don't think Tom Brady ever hit that moment of, it's really disappointing that I destroyed my marriage. And those guys don't care. So are women wired differently? Maybe. I actually think Michael Jordan would way rather be on the golf course betting $500 per putt than he would be at home with his family.
And again, you can learn from other people's lunacy and mistakes. You can learn from, just because Michael Jordan's insane doesn't mean you have to join him. And I know he's celebrated by the world.
She might be, is my argument, though. The people that work, think about it. She's such one of a kind. To get to be as good as she is, you have to be some sort of weird obsessive type.
I would be making a different argument if the WNBA had some sort of legitimate traction and relevancy. It doesn't. She's not going to elevate that league. That's my opinion. First week or two of her WNBA career, people will tune in. When they see that group of tatted up wannabe men, it's not the same as Iowa. It's not. Brittany Griner is covered in tattoos. We didn't see, as far as I can tell, we didn't see anybody like that during this women's college basketball thing. We saw some, the Cardosas got a sleeve and all this other stuff. But they're mimicking men in the WNBA. People aren't going to watch that. And they're taking knees at every, I mean, you think people didn't like LSU being in the locker room for the national anthem? The WNBA is the leader of coming up with an excuse to take a knee and disrespect the country. What's she joining? Again, if she were joining some super successful league that was open to her lifestyle, I'd say have at it.
Well, I agree with you. So let me play devil's advocate. And that would be, most people would say there's no way you could really lift the women's game this much. She's lifted it to a level I think virtually all of us would have said there's not a chance she could lift it to.
I'm not going to take credit for saying, no, I did, because it's kind of weak for me to say that. But I've been arguing for years, starting back when Brittany Griner was playing. I started pointing out, I was like, hey man, the only people in college basketball I know anything about are these women playing in women's college basketball. This is a mistake for men. And so I started the whole one and done. I was always like, for 20 years, I've been arguing, or maybe even longer. Well, I don't know what year Kevin Garnett went straight from high school but I started arguing like, this is going to kill the NBA. These guys are bringing no brand to the NBA. Don't they realize what they're missing? And then I started connecting the dots like, well, the women are building brands in college basketball. And the reason they are is because there is this veneer of purity and traditional values. Colleges are primarily located in more rural areas, not in major urban cities. They're more remote. And so families still go to college games. It still feels like a family event, a mom and dad and kids event. That's not the WNBA. And it's not really even the NBA.
No, certainly not. But I was trying, I don't think they've come out yet. I bet 20 million people watched the game last night.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that could have happened in a million years.
I would have.
Really?
Yes. It's been building this momentum, and I don't know what Brittany Griner's last year was at Baylor or last couple of years, but I can remember making the argument, like, hey, there was Brittany Griner, maybe her and Diana Taurasi were in college basketball at the same time, I can't remember.
Taurasi was like...
Well, whoever, there was some star at UConn, Maya Moore, I don't know. There was somebody at UConn, and I was like, the two biggest names in college basketball are Brittany Griner and this other girl. I said, they're bigger than all the men. And so I could see where this was headed. And now once they have a woman who plays a unique style and she's got a narrative and a story you can follow, this doesn't shock me. I felt like this was all, I can go back even before Brittany Griner, writing in the Kansas City Star, that like, hey man, the women have something special here, women's college basketball. And I used to always argue like they should move their tournament to April. Get out from under the shadow of the men's tournament and watch how many people would watch the women's tournament because of tradition and because the women stay around for 4 or 5 seasons. I was writing that when I was in Kansas City, early 2000s, maybe late 1990s.
Let's agree on this. Minimally, you were in the minority.
Yes. No, I was definitely.
Virtually nobody thought 20 million people would ever watch a group of women play basketball. Wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
This is why everybody hates the WNBA, because it's a league of victims, wannabe victims.
Yes.
That's the problem. Nobody looked at Iowa or South Carolina last night and thought this is a group of victims, of people who just got a chip on their shoulder. And I just watched a group of girls that enjoyed playing, and so that's actually what I liked. I actually enjoyed Dawn Staley's behavior yesterday. I thought she did a good job. There weren't a lot of antics. There was no fighting. There was no over-the-top stuff. You weren't arguing with the officials. It was a good, fun game, back and forth. I sat there and enjoyed it. The WNBA is like the antithesis of that. It is a group of women that are subsidized to the tune of $10 million per year just to exist, and they complain that people don't like them. So, and then that group comes down to the college game and bullies all the girls and tells Caitlin Clark how she's in for a rude awakening once she gets to WNBA. People aren't fans of that. So I do agree that it's not gonna work. I just don't agree that she should just short circuit her life and career and say, throw your hands up, WNBA is unsalvageable, I shouldn't play anymore, they hate me, so I'm going home.
I just think basketball is giving her all that it has to give, and she should move on. But that's why, let me ask you this other question. And I don't know where I come down on this, but my question is, did Caitlin Clark ultimately hurt or help the women's game? And I say hurt because it made me pay attention and it made me go, whew, I don't like these people at all. Thank God this is over. I mean, these women are mean, vicious, jealous, and racist. I'm good. Or did she help college basketball or women's basketball by proving, hey, there is something here?
Well, I would say she certainly helped it. The bad stuff that I saw, I already assumed existed. And so.
At this level?
Oh, yeah. Look, I went to a Division I school. I saw inside the locker rooms. I saw who they're playing. You know it's mostly a group of lesbians that are, yes. So I didn't think I would be that interested in college. My little sister was a very good college basketball player at a lower level, but she was a freshman All-American at an NAIA school. I knew the culture. It's clear what the culture is. You don't just get to the WNBA and turn into a butch lesbian. Like that starts happening much, much earlier. So the college locker rooms are just like that. And what Caitlin did is show, hey, all the cultures aren't like that. There are particularly these middle America type schools. Because I don't think Mizzou, they certainly got a bunch of lesbians on their team, but I don't think they have this sort of coastal elite type of attitude, and it's certainly not a Dawn Staley locker room. And so there are things that are likable, but what Caitlin did is show me there are actually some really gifted girls and they're learning to play better. What I saw, I watched Diana Taurasi in college. This may have been, I think Diana Taurasi was 2001 maybe, 2000. She's been around forever. And I remember watching her and I'm like, this girl does a bunch of set shots. Like, I don't care. There's nothing appealing about this. Why would I watch, her and Allen Iverson were around at the same time. Like, okay, should I watch AI or should I watch Diana Taurasi sit over here and do a bunch of set shots? And Caitlin Clark showed me there are some girls that exist that actually can play like Steph Curry on a much lower level.
There's one girl that can do that, and maybe Juju will be the second, maybe.
I thought there were zero, though. I mean, that's a huge...
I agree, but take, and again, I'm making an obvious point, but if Caitlin Clark were removed from that game yesterday, everybody would be like, this is brutal.
Unwatchable.
It's brutal. To watch a 6'7", 300-pound girl push people around and hit putback buckets, Camila Cardoso, that's not, and again, she can't jump over a newspaper today. And you know how thin today's newspapers are. She couldn't jump over one of those. Yep. Has no athleticism, and she's the most outstanding player of the NCAA tournament. And just because she was born 6'7", or with the ability to get to 6'7" and carry 280, 290 pounds, that game was unwatchable.
And that's, according to now the trophy, that's the best they have to offer. But yes, I would have hated this game. I actually really enjoyed watching the UConn game because there were some very skilled girls. Like, I can't remember her name. The girl that was defending Caitlin was really, really good. And particularly just I liked watching the chess match of watching Caitlin try to get open. And
you talking about this year? I mean, yesterday? Raven Johnson?
No, the UConn game.
Gotcha.
Whoever the UConn girl was that almost shut her down. I mean, she said it was the best defense she had ever. It was the Purdue girl and then the girl from UConn. Don't remember either of their names, but they were good. It was a fun sort of chess match. How do you watch the most gifted player that's ever graced the women's basketball game? How do you shut her down? And so that was fun. And then watching that Paige girl was fun. She was good at mid-range shots. She was good at basketball fundamentals. She was good at stuff Caitlin actually isn't that good at. And so she had floaters. She Gino, I think, certainly a better coach than Lisa Bluter, had plays drawn up, had ways to get her up. But that was fun to watch. So there are things that I'll say there are more than 1.5 girls at this point. Because Juju, I enjoyed watching Juju too, although she's not at the level of Caitlin yet. But there's a few out there. There's a girl from Stanford, I think that's going to be.
Tall girl from Stanford.
There's a girl that I think is from Stanford who's going to be like the number 2 pick.
Yeah, tall girl from Stanford. I can't think of her name, but you're accurate.
Yeah, and so the top 5 or so. I mean, even again, you need this in all leagues, and because of social media and people have gone away from it, you need villains. Like, this wouldn't have been that much fun without Angel Reese. So I enjoyed the Angel Reese setup. Don't like her, but I enjoyed having a villain. I enjoyed having somebody not to like. So what my brother pointed this out yesterday. What women's basketball did this year that what men's basketball hasn't done since Zion left was they created storylines, stuff I care about. And that's half the battle. Do you have to be that good if there's a bunch of storylines?
No. But I'm just, it's gone on with me in television. And this is all just a TV show. Sports, it's just a TV show. But what's gone on with TV shows is, take House of Dragons. I don't like anybody.
Yeah.
So I couldn't watch it. And the other thing they've done with House of Dragons, and again, it's what they're doing with all TV, it's what they're doing with commercials. And I'm sorry for saying this, I'm just speaking factually. I'm not trying to be controversial or troll anybody, but it's no different than this Romeo and Juliet thing. They're removing beauty from everything. And so House of Dragons, there are, like Game of Thrones, there was a lot of beautiful women. Mm-hmm. House of Dragons, virtually none. They're parading 7s around like they're 10s and pretending 5s or 7s and all, but they've just reduced the beauty thing. Just this Romeo and Juliet thing. They found all these attractive black female actors, but they found some very mediocre black woman to play Juliet. And you look on TV commercials, proliferated with unattractive women now that used to be like, well, you had to be attractive to be in commercials. And so these storylines in the women's basketball with all of these mildly attractive, I'm coming up with a pause. I just don't know. And you got to be Caitlin Clark dynamic on the court, or you need to be, because I'm old, I can remember this. Dawn Staley in college was seen as attractive back then. Kim Mulkey, when she was a college player, was an attractive college player. Jackie Stiles, I don't know if you remember her from Southwest Missouri State or whatever, great scorer, whatever. She was seen as attractive. It used to, again, those would be anyway, I want to pause because and we're going to need probably 20, 30 minutes to talk about Dawn Staley and this faith stuff. Let me take care of our great friends at Hillsdale first. I'm tired of scrolling through shows on TV and finding nothing but the same mind-numbing content. You've probably been there too. Don't waste the precious little time you have with that nonsense. Instead, use that time to learn something new and inspiring. That's why I'm so excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories of the Book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, all available for free. That's right, for free. I personally recommend you sign up for the Ancient Christianity. In this 11-lecture course, you'll study the inspiring stories of Christ, his apostles, and faithful ones throughout the first 4 centuries of Christianity. You'll also learn the arguments of key early Christian apologists who defended the Christian faith in the face of persecution. The course is self-paced so that you can start whenever and wherever. Enroll now in Ancient Christianity to discover the improbable and miraculous story of Christianity. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/fearless to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/fearless to register. Hillsdale, and Dale is spelled DALE.edu.com/fearless or .edu/fearless. No need for the com. TJ, Dawn Staley, you buying her Christian faith?
On a personal level, like just evaluating it. No, of course not. On a Christian spiritual level, I hope so. That's part of the and the Andrew Womack Bible you and I both like, in Matthew 7:1, it's a judge not lest you be judged. That, as we always talk about, is not saying you can't judge people. Of course you have to judge people. How are you going to make it through life without making judgments? It is saying use righteous judgments and don't judge motives. And so you don't know why people are doing things. I don't know why suddenly she's coming out and praising God every chance that she gets, while she's also championing transgenderism, while she's also picking fights with every random white person she sees in the street, right? That I don't know why that is.
Let me stop you there as it relates to, are we sure she's still picking fights with every white person? It seems like this entire season, she kind of backed away from that. The things that really irritated me was what she did to Lisa Bluter last year. Lisa Bluter says rebounding is like getting in a barroom fight, and somehow Dawn Staley turns that into Lisa Bluter's being racist. And she did that, and there's no defending it, there's no rationalizing. That's what she did to Lisa Bluter. She hopped into that BYU deal, refused to play a game at BYU, smeared those BYU kids and the University of BYU for no reason other than she could. It was all racial pandering. That was all last year. This year, she has gone out of her way to appear more classy. The fight with LSU, or the scrum, it wasn't really a fight, but she apologized for it on court, and people like that. Yesterday, she praised Caitlin Clark. Let's just play that SOT 7 of her praising Caitlin Clark. Let's play that.
Oh, Dawn wants to say one more thing. I really would just like to say that I have to congratulate Iowa on an incredible season. Awesome. And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport. And it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games. We appreciate you.
So then I want to also play SOT number 5, where she talks about winning and doing things the right way. Let's play that clip.
Well, it means that we have quietly have done things, in my opinion, the right way. You know, we find the right pieces to help us. We really do things the right way. We're very disciplined in how we approach basketball. I am one that I'm forever indebted to basketball, so I'm always going to take care of it. I'm always going to make sure that our players are respectful. I'm always going to make sure that they know the history of our game. I want to make sure they are always respectful to our opponents. And when you do it that way, in return, you have success. You have success in the wins column and very little, disappointment in the loss column. And I don't think that's talked about enough, what we've been able to do, and I don't know why, and I really don't care why. We're going to keep doing what we're doing the right way, whether we are the popular or unpopular successful programs in the country. So we're going to keep doing that way. So
I hear that as a shot at Angel Reese and Kim Mulkey. Mm-hmm. We're doing things the right way. She's trying, and I hear, we'll play some of these faith-based comments as well. This is a recruiting battle, and there's an image makeover that's going on with Dawn Staley. I believe a lot of the media and social media influencers are in on it and are a part of it. I think this is all calculated to position Dawn Staley in a certain way, and Dawn Staley is going out of her way to hit key talking points that allow her to be portrayed in a way that she was not being portrayed at, because she's. I don't know why people don't see that. Well, they don't see it because you spend a lot of your time looking to smear white people unfairly any chance you get, And so people don't see you winning things the right way. You were in the way of that. And again, this is where I go, like, if you're going to talk about your newly discovered faith or your newly rekindled faith, or you're just now exposing your long held faith, at some point, you will start talking about, here are the stupid things I did that were in the way of my faith and the way of people seeing me properly. And so there's a lot, and I hate, because again, I'm so unrighteous. I don't want anybody to think that I'm portraying myself as righteous and or the way. I'm just going to tell you what my rekindled faith has made me do, has made me examine myself and all the stupid and dumb things that I've done and still want to do. It's a daily battle. And that's what I would like to hear from Dawn Staley more so than, I'm a victim and people just portrayed me unfairly for no reason. Nah, Whitlock, there was a bunch of things that you were doing that allowed people to portray you unfairly.
Or fairly.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think I agree with most of what you said there. What I would say is does she have a single white player on her team?
Yes. One of them started.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
That's definitely a white girl. The tall white girl?
Yeah.
I ain't talking about Pow Pow or the tall white girl. Yeah, I saw.
All right, so we'll say
mom and dad. Yeah.
1 out of 18 or whatever it is.
Nah, I think she's got a white girl on the bench or two, but go ahead.
Not her primary target. It's no different than these Nick Saban types who got to do these BLM marches. These coaches have to do this racial idolatry nonsense in order to recruit. So if it's a recruiting tactic, you don't back off of the being critical of white people. You turn up the gas. And so, I mean, this is November of this year. They did a independent review on the referees and their margins in the LSU-Iowa national championship game. And she tweets about it. So what is this, 4 months ago? And says, okay, there was an independent review done under anonymity, but we do know who the officials are. All black and brown skinned women. Now that they're thrown under the bus, let's not run them over. So what she's saying is, hey, leave them alone, they're black. This was just a couple months ago.
So they reviewed the officials.
From last national championship game, but it came out this November. They did an independent review on like, hey, they kind of screwed up a lot of these calls.
Yes.
And it was all black women. And so Dawn Staley tweets out and says, okay, so the person who did the review gets to be unanimous, but we know who these women, the officials were. They were all black and brown women. So they've been thrown under the bus, let's not run them over. All she's saying is, leave them alone, they're black.
You just triggered in my mind the other thing she's done. And I know there are people in the audience like, hold up, Whitlock, hold up, you're forgetting stuff. Didn't she unleash a couple of subtweets at Caitlin Clark this year when she broke a record, I thought? She mentioned that she got away with a push-off or she subtweeted Caitlin Clark a couple of different times earlier in the season. And so I'm glad you just triggered my memory on that. And so, which is just furthering my narrative that at some point this year, someone pointed out to Dawn Staley, or Dawn Staley saw it herself and was getting so much messaging and was watching so many people pile on Caitlin Clark that she's like, oh boy, this is a mistake. I need to pivot off of that, particularly since I know my team's going to win because they got nobody to stop Cardoso and we're going to crush them on the boards. And so I'm going to take the high road. But anyway,
January 2nd,
yeah.
She said, heck of a shot, but give the game ball to the ref for the shooting foul call. So.
Yes, that's, again, this is what I believe. She really, man, God is so good. He let me beat that white bitch. That's really, that's really what I think she believes.
But I do too. Again, just from a purely observational standpoint, I do think as Christians, we have an obligation. I fully agree with what you said in the opening monologue. She's given us the standard now by which we can judge her and judge ourselves, right? It's like she didn't just say, God of the universe, God's everywhere, God's everything. God's actually a she. She didn't go with all, she said he, and she said Jesus, and then she actually said the Bible, and she was quoting Paul, I believe, in 2 Corinthians 12:10.
Hold on, let's play that. This is from the Elite Eight, SOT number 3. Let's play that clip.
I think God has a funny way of dealing with people, and I'm one of his, and for us to lose the way we lost last year, and for him to bring us to this point today, makes me believe a little bit deeper, and it strengthens my faith in who he is, because it's I don't know what the Bible verse is, but I know that when you're at your worst and your weakest moments, he's at his best. And he started working on that the day that buzzer sound last year during this time. So I am proud of our team, and I don't want to ever not give God the glory for giving us uncommon favor.
So winning a game and making it back to the Final Four, remember that's from the Elite Eight, that made her believe deeper. So if she had lost that game, she wouldn't believe deeper, or maybe she'd believe less, I don't know. But is your faith really dependent on the score of a basketball game?
There's a lot of evidence to the contrary, but what I'm trying to say is that it is, I think, our obligation. Again, so let me backtrack a little bit. It's our obligation as Christians now to, if she is proclaiming her faith, to let's say she is a new Christian. We don't know her Christian walk. Let's say she's a Christian as of 5 minutes ago and has decided, I got a wild hair. I know I'm who I am, but I got to talk about God. Well, now it's our jobs as the Christians further down our path to say, great, now let's tell you about what real Christianity actually is, and let's crack open this Bible a little more than just one verse that you saw, when I am weak, I am strong, from 2 Corinthians. I do think that's our job.
So, and I believe your belief that she's referring to 2 Corinthians, but just in doing homework and in trying to be fair, because again, she says something about when I'm at my worst. And so Romans 5 and 10, this is one interpretation of that verse. I've read it 3 different ways this morning. But this particular one says, if when we were at our worst, we were put on friendly terms with God by the sacrificial death of his son, now that we're at our best, just think of how our lives will expand and deepen by means of his resurrected life. So that just throwing it out there as a pot, maybe that's what she's referring to. And then when I go to my Living Commentary Bible, Andrew Womack version, online, or that TJ bought me as an app, I use it as a resource daily. But anyway, Andrew Womack's interpretation of that verse, 5 and 10, he refers back to Romans 5 and 8 and Romans 5 and 9. Romans is often taken out of context and used to stress that God loves sinners, but Romans 5 and 9 is the point Paul was getting to. If God loved us as sinners so much that he was willing to die for us, then much more does he love us as saints. These two thoughts are combined in this verse. Jesus' death paid our debt and reconciled us to God. His resurrection gave us his supernatural power to reign in life. Now he's referring to Galatians 1 and 4 there, the back end of that. But so it makes me say, what if Dawn Staley saying, man, last year was so tough that it strengthened and or reconnected me to my spiritual faith, and I was at my worst, and now I've been made better through my understanding and blah blah blah. What if that's what she's trying to get at? Maybe she's trying to say, hey, I've been made anew.
Well, if so, she should be able to at least cite the scripture she's talking about. That'd be a good start, instead of saying, I know somewhere in the Bible it says this. If when you're proclaiming your faith, it's probably, that's a good start. And again, maybe we have to leave room for that, because our job, this is, what are the, I'm messing up the conversation here, but the commercial that they had, He Gets Us commercials, yes. The argument we made during that time is that Christians have an obligation to try to emulate Jesus and give just as much grace as we do truth all the time. And she deserves that too. And so there's a lot of evidence to the contrary that she's serious about this, but she deserves the grace of, she brought up the name of Jesus, she brought up the Bible, and she thanked God several times in the last week. So those are all very good things. Now, I want to be careful of people thinking, oh, what that means is you can be as crazy as you want, you can hate white people, you can probably be a lesbian, you can live this whole life and God will still love you and embrace us. I want to be careful of that. But am I going to punish someone for bringing up the name of Jesus ever? No. It goes back to your argument from last week or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the Christ is King thing. Paul came through Scripture said, anytime someone is saying Christ is King, that's a good thing. So I'm on board with that.
All right. I want to enter into the record here, and we're going to get to Shemeka here shortly, but I want to enter into the record here. SOT 2 and 4. Let's play these back to back. These are her, I believe, from yesterday, talking about God and how wonderful He is now that she's won a championship. SOT 2 and 4 back to back.
Is funny like that. He's funny. He rips your heart out and he makes you believe. He makes you believe the unimaginable. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. We serve an unbelievable God. We serve uncommon favor. Uncommon favor. Unbelievable. So good. So good.
At one point in that, she bends over and has a level of emotion I just haven't seen from someone who's winning their third championship in a very short period of time and has lost one game in 2 years. This is where I go that like this is scripted and calculated, and it's I believe that the left knows, and the puppet, they're using all of these influencers to try to convince you can believe all these things that are in direct contradiction to the Bible and still be a Christian. And so Dawn Staley, not that the transgender comments were calculated because she didn't know the question was coming, but Dawn Staley, Deion Sanders, a lot of these influencers, Ben Watson, are out here promoting things that are in contradiction to the word and still saying, yeah, but, you know, I'm a Christian and this is what sports-related Christianity looks like. And it's letting everybody know that. And so the reason I connected to everything else that's going on is I think the left, and that's why they're using these black influencers, are looking at black people come to the realization like, holy cow, is the stuff we're actually doing, does this put us outside the body of Christ? Are we in contradiction to our alleged faith? Did Diddy and Cat Williams, did they just expose how demonic our worship of these idols is? Did they just show us? Did Diddy just not get caught with his pants down and Cat Williams just tell us like, hey man, this whole hip hop thing and all this idolatry is actually dangerous and destroying us. And so the idols are now trying to put themselves in alignment with Christianity and faith in God so that you don't point a finger at them. And I'm gonna be fair and not say what I want to say.
Are you sure? It'd make for a better conversation.
I'm going to say it this way. When I look at the behavior of a lot of these idols and look at them recast themselves, I start going, I wonder if they're on the Diddy party list. That's where I go. And let me wrap myself in this so when this Diddy party list comes out, I'm in the clear. I just, it's a lot of positioning trying to justify the wickedness of the left and trying to put people back to sleep and say, nah, you can be pro-abortion. Nah, you can be a racial idolater. Nah, you can hate white people. Nah, you can support transgenderism and be an ally of the LGBTQ. You can co-sign all, you can go same-sex marriage, throw flowers and get the biggest wedding gift. You can do it all and still be a Christian. That's what I think Dawn Staley's job is, and a lot of these other influencers.
Okay, so answer me this then. Do you think it's a mistake? Because what's going to happen here is, if you go back 25 years-ish, 20, 30 years, Bill Clinton had to do the safe, legal, and rare because he knew if you went where we are today, people would lose their minds. And so under his, I think, proclaimed Christian faith, I mean, the people at the time, if you were going to be out and out about your faith, you had to hold certain positions in order for that to be consistent with your faith. These people now hold such radical positions. Trying to inject God back into these positions is going to be impossible. And so how are they going to defend these positions and also defend a relationship with God that they're not saying is just a random God? It's the God of the Bible, and we have very clear boundaries.
I'm going to limit this portion, and Shemeka, if you're taking notes, make sure you comment or remind me to have you comment on what I'm about to say. But I'm going to limit this to black voters, black people, and the black church. They're going to have the black church, and they're having the black church co-sign all of this. Where did Fannie Willis immediately go after she gets caught committing adultery with a married man, paying him off, sounding like a common criminal on the witness stand? She ran to the black church, gave a speech, and was celebrated there. And so the black church is going to co-sign all of it. Dawn Staley has put herself in position to speak at virtually any black church in America this coming Sunday and throughout the summer. And trust me, black ministers are on the phone right now. How can we get Dawn Staley to our church? And they heard her say, yeah, transgender athletes can play. But because of the idolatry and because of anything wrapped in a black package, the black church will defend. And so Dawn Staley's wrapped in a black package. She says she honors God, and that's enough. Nothing else matters. And so Fannie Willis, wrapped in a black package, banging a married black man, but she says she's a believer. And so come on up to the pulpit, give your sermon, and we're all going to celebrate. There will be ministers that this past Sunday incorporated Dawn Staley into their sermon, and now in Victory, next Sunday, they'll have sermons built. There will be, I hope Woke Preacher Clips is watching today, because be on the lookout for ministers that incorporate Dawn Staley into their future sermons. And so they think it's going to not blow back because they're counting on the black church to sell this to black voters. And they know that turn on Twitter and look at all the black people celebrating Dawn Staley and blah, blah. Minister comes in and says, yep, she's one of our idols. She's great, blah, blah, blah. They'll just wrap her into the messaging, and these people will leave the church thinking, nope, I'm not out of bounds here supporting transgenderism. I'm not out of bounds supporting abortion. I'm not out of bounds supporting same-sex marriage. I'm not out of bounds. You know what? And I can say I don't support it, but I'm going to pull the lever for the people who do support all this stuff, even though I disagree with them.
So tell me why you think they need Dawn Staley for that, because they're doing that anyway.
She's a huge icon, and we're in an election cycle. And they need people out there stumping and supporting their message. And there's desperation based on all the polling. Many black people are starting to have the scales taken off their eyes. And again, they're looking at the Cat Williams thing that I don't think the left was anticipating. Cat Williams and for people to go, ooh, is this stuff demonic? And then you toss on Diddy coming right after the cat, and they're like, whoa, is this stuff demonic? There's this discomfort, like, man, is getting violated in the rear end, is that a ritual you have to go through to be an icon in America?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
And people are having their eyes open to it. And so they need these other icons to clean that up and say, yeah, you may have to get violated, but it doesn't hurt that bad. And actually you'll get used to it and you'll love it. And
So your theory here is that this entire Dawn Staley thing is aimed solely at the black church.
Without question. Black women, the black church, black men love sports. And because of our racial idolatry, we thought yesterday was a race war. And we think we won. And again, there are people like me, it's like, hey man, this isn't a race war. This is a spiritual war. This is good versus evil. And I'm not calling Caitlin Clark in Iowa pure and good and blah, blah, blah. But I am saying, like, there's a group of people that want to be hostile to heterosexual, evangelical, white people, and black people. If you're really paying attention, it's just, if you hold on to Christian values, there's a group of people that want to demonize you and remove you and treat you unfairly and put you at the back of the line. Women's basketball is at the top of that list. Dawn Staley is one of the loudest voices in women's basketball. And so, again, I'm sure Iowa has many of the same dynamics found throughout all of women's athletics. They got their percentage of the LGBTQ at Iowa as well. But the culture and the environment, the values, again, you go to an Iowa basketball game, they're probably not playing rap music before or after the game in terms of in the arena. I'm sure their kids listen to rap music just like everybody else. I just saw Caitlin Clark, there's some kind of video she put out where I think it was some Meek Mill song or somebody's song that defined her career. But inside the arena and the culture, and it's very family at Iowa. And in the SEC, it's very hip hop. Yeah.
Here's the only thing, the pushback I'd give you on that, and why at the beginning I asked, is it a mistake? Because the Bill Maher's of the world, the people that are trying to move this country from a Christian country to an atheist country so you can make up your own morality, they have now just put God back in the center, and you hope that the black church then has so much racial idolatry that they'll just go along with it. But the risk you run is they still got to match it up with that Bible. And there's still going to be Jason Whitlock and a whole group of people saying, well, now we're talking about God, and this is my area of expertise.
Shemeka, make sure you're listening, comment on this. Bill Maher does not take black people seriously. And I don't say that to smear Bill Maher. I don't say it to smear him. I'm saying anybody that's evaluating what we're voting, we're calling ourselves hardcore Christians, and we're voting for politicians in support of abortion. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to take that group of people seriously.
Well, it's not a swing vote. The vote's already set in stone. And that's why the Democrats have not done anything for black people in a very, very, very long time, because they don't have to, because the vote's already set in stone.
And this again, why I say, don't take us seriously. They shouldn't. We're going to do what they say regardless of the results. You've got 60 straight years of, hey, let's do it the Democrat way. And we've watched our families be destroyed, our neighborhoods be destroyed, our kids turned out sexually and immorally and involved in a culture that's criminal that we're calling our own. And this is all following what the left is telling us to do. And we're looking at the results, and we're still a slave and afraid to tell anybody, hey, I question this. And so they don't take us seriously, and nor should they.
Hear my argument, though, because it seems like you're making both arguments. They need God, for Dawn Staley to talk about God in order for this thing to because they're waking up. And now I'm saying if they're waking up and they hear that, and now you actually have to have the conversation because God is in the conversation now. They're way better off having God out of the conversation and just hoping that people just roll with it. Well, that's just politics, and church is over here, politics are over here. You start injecting God into politics, and now you got to match it up with your Bible. I think it's a bad strategy.
Long term, I think you're right. This election cycle, I think they just say, because their whole 2020 election cycle was based on, we'll just stop here after I make this comment and bring Shemeka, because so many things I want to remember. But their whole 2020 election cycle was on black women. There are some really dangerous, illegal things we're going to need you to do to win this election. We got some ballot harvesting and some mail-in balloting that needs to be done. And we're gonna to have 2,000 mules do all this. And so we have to convince you that Donald Trump is Hitler and you'll be back in slavery because we need you to do this in order to win this election. And they got black women to do it. And they're circling back. It's even worse. Who was the woman, I think is the actor from Blackish that I just saw the video of her talking about if Trump gets elected, he's Hitler and he's gonna do this and do that. And again, they're doubling back and say, hey guys, we're gonna need you to do it again. And we actually may need you to kill Trump this time and anybody that supports him. And so Dawn Staley is a key thing. For Donna Brazile, I saw her tweet out something about Donna Brazile, black woman, Democratic strategist. She tweeted out something about
former head of the DNC.
Yeah. Hey guys, we need to handle this victory with grace. And so again, Donna Brazile, I think, is from Louisiana. She ain't even from South Carolina. I think. Maybe look it up. Yeah. But she is out here saying, hey, Dawn Staley and South Carolina beat Iowa. Let's be graceful and give Caitlin Clark her flowers. This is how critical that the former head of the DNC, the black woman queen of the Democratic Party, other than Michelle Obama, is making sure everybody, hey guys, we just had a big victory with Dawn Staley, but let's be careful here with Caitlin Clark because it's blowing up in our face. Let's be graceful here. Mm-hmm. This is a political thing, and black women are the key to the leftist strategy. That's why Ketanji Brown Jackson, you can be on the Supreme Court, and Kamala Harris, Willie Brown was very satisfied with you. You can be vice president. Michelle Obama, we got you up on a pedestal. Stacey Abrams, you can't even balance a checkbook or your weight. We'll make you, and I can balance a checkbook, Stacey. I got the same weight problem as you, but anyway, we'll make you the queen of the Democrat Party. Let me stop. Jennifer Lewis.
Yeah, she said this is mother effing Hitler and that he was going to light the Constitution on fire.
I made Shemeka. We'll stop here. Bring Shemeka Michelle on next. We want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation to hate discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom. Hello, Fearless Army. I'm Jason Whitlock, your leader. I'm going to spend 2024 discussing growth and sacrifice. Hard times are here. Harder times are coming. What has stopped American growth and caused a regression in fundamental freedoms and values? A lack of sacrifice. Our ancestors sacrificed for our benefit. We have not sacrificed to protect the progress they died for. No sacrifice, no freedom. What impedes man's willingness to sacrifice? His ignorance, his perversion, his pride, his ingratitude, and his cowardice. His rejection of God. The Bible is a story about the power and the necessity of sacrifice. Sacrifice is the sun, rain, and fertilizer of growth. Growth is our life purpose. Grow in the knowledge, wisdom, fear, obedience, and reverence to the Most High. Growth requires sacrifice will be our theme for Roll Call 2.0 this summer, June 1, right back here in Nashville. We're excited to welcome you. Let me spend a minute explaining what GROWTH actually stands for for us in the Fearless Army. The G is for game plan. In order to properly grow, it's essential we work from the strategic game plan spelled out in the Bible. The R, responsibility. As we grow as men, we understand and accept our responsibilities to God, family, and teammates. The O, ownership. We embrace ownership of our destiny. Outsiders do not determine our fate. The W, wisdom. We honor, value, and share the wisdom imparted to us by elders, coaches, and leaders. The T, trust. We must be worthy of trust. The reliability of a man's word defines him far more than popularity and material possessions. The H, humility. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. That's straight from Proverbs 22:4. Come join us in Nashville as we talk about growth and sacrifice and how without sacrifice there will be no growth. Roll Call 2.0 right here in Nashville, Saturday, June 1st. All right, welcome back. Shemeka, I hope you've been listening. I asked you to take a bunch of notes because my memory's not the greatest. And so I hope you were taking notes and listening, but anything you want to chime in on here before I'll point you a specific direction?
Well, and just the things that I know you told me to be listening to as far as the Black church and the Black voters all having to co-sign this stuff. When it comes to the Black church, you're absolutely right. And I think that Black people in general are expected to co-sign stupidity and degeneracy. That's just where we are. When I look at the amount of people that got upset with me because I was not going for South Carolina simply because of the transgender statement, they wanted me to side with this woman because she was Black. Although I disagree with that belief, it's crazy to me that I should have, because of the color of my skin, decided against something that I stand firmly opposed to deep within because of my skin color. I just think that people believe, especially Black people, that we're so inferior that we have to go along to get along with every single thing, whether we agree or not. Like, my morals and values do not allow me to think men can be women. Not only that, biology doesn't allow me to think men can be women. And so I think it's just wrong for them to participate in female sports. But because I'm Black, I was supposed to co-sign it. And so that's how we think.
And this is why I make the point to TJ that people like Bill Maher and other people don't take us seriously, because they know we will make a decision solely based on skin color, and beliefs, values, positions people take 1,000% irrelevant. And so this is where I say, like, white people have more freedom than us. They can have disagreements over values and principles and policies and disagree and say, hey, I'm against Donald Trump, or hey, I'm against Bill Clinton. We don't have that freedom. So if Dawn Staley believes in burning children at the stake, someone could argue, well, Dawn is Black, so even though she wants to burn children at the stake, you must support her. And we would go with that. We would co-sign that.
Absolutely. And you know who would require us to co-sign it? Black people. White people don't, put this requirement on us. And I've never seen white people say to each other, all skin folk aren't kin folk, simply because they disagree on their beliefs. But that's what we do to each other as Black people, the whole all skin folk aren't kin folk, because we're expected to think alike and stand with each other based simply on skin. Values don't matter. Morals don't matter. Even the ways we were raised differently don't matter. all we are expected to do is stand with skin color. And I think that we will fall for anything. I'm almost at the point where I don't take Black people seriously because you stand for nothing. You don't stand for anything. There are people that grew up in the church with me that should understand why I don't co-sign homosexuality or transgenderism, but they act clueless. Like, how can you say that? We were raised in the same church, grew up in the same neighborhoods. You know exactly why I stand the way that I do, because we were both taught the same thing. But you bend over and I don't, and that's the difference.
What do you think about, I want to play you, I don't know if you saw this, I want to play SOT number 8. I hope this is Lynette Woodard at that convention where she basically said that Caitlin Clark's records aren't valid. And there's been so much backlash towards Caitlin Clark, but this is from Black and white women. But I want to play the clip, SOT number 8, of Lynette Woodard saying that, Caitlin Clark doesn't really have the scoring record.
I am the hidden figure, but no longer now. My record was hidden from everyone for 43 years. 43 years. I don't think, I'll just go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. I don't think my record has been broken because you can't duplicate what you're not duplicating. And so unless you come with a men's basketball and a 2-point shot, hey, But just for you, so you can understand, so you can help me spread that word.
I love the part with the woman snapping her finger in the background.
So sophisticated.
But what is that racism? Is it jealousy? What is it that it seems like Caitlin Clark has driven Black women and perhaps lesbian women completely insane?
I would say it's definitely jealousy, but because of the vitriol that I've seen online lately, it has to be a sprinkle of racism as well, because I don't even see Caitlin walking around being this arrogant, braggadocious person saying, I got this record, or I did this, I did that. They are seeing this young lady work, get on the court and play ball. And that's where all of the anger is coming from. She's not walking around saying she's better than anyone. She's getting out there. She's playing ball. She's bringing eyes that no one else has brought to the game. I don't know who this lady is that just, spoke, but I'm not a big sports fan. But Caitlin has brought eyes to the game that otherwise would not be watching, like myself, and I will not be watching even when she goes to the WNBA. I don't want to see a bunch of women hunched over with poor posture thinking they're men. I'm just not interested in it. So for me, this was also my last women's basketball game, because unless a player comes along that's just as exciting to watch, I'm just not interested. But I believe these women are jealous and they don't have a reason to. It's simply because they see what we all see, but want us not to see it.
You know what? The point that you make there that's a great one is they don't have a reason to be, because she's getting the kind of vitriol as if she were dating Idris Elba or Kevin Durant or Lamar Jackson. It's like if she were dating some prominent Black man, I would get it. I would be like, yeah, they in their feelings, and but she's not about that life. She seems about as Midwest a white girl as you could possibly be. Take that Haley Van Lith or whatever. I could definitely see her dating some Black dude,
100%,
and dropping the N-word every few seconds. I've seen that before, but usually we reserve this type of vitriol for the white woman that is dating a Black dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And Caitlin is very far from that. I think I don't know the name of the Carolina player, the one that on South Carolina's team that had the eyelashes, the white girl who's dating a black guy. I haven't even seen people being this hateful towards her. And so with Caitlin, it's like, why do you dislike this girl so much? I think because she represents what they believe is white supremacy. And so many people are trying to talk down on her game as if the only interest we have in her is because she's the great white hope, because she's not that good. And that's simply just not true. It's a lie. And I do think that you have an argument when you say because she's heterosexual. I talked to my daughter who played basketball, as I've said before, from the age of 9 through high school. And I asked her, did she feel that type of pressure to choose or to be lesbian? And she said, yes, struggling with her identity as a young woman, not really knowing anything, she felt pressure to choose a side, and it better be lesbian. That was just the unsaid atmosphere when you came to practice and just being involved in that lifestyle. And so now that she posts pictures that are very feminine, she feels like she doesn't have the same friends who feels like, okay, you were fake gay. Because that is the unsaid rule that you have to be boyish, And so I do believe they hate the fact that Caitlin looks the way that she does, because so many people have said she may be a guy, or she's not cute, or she's ugly, but yet she has a man. What so many Black women are missing is a man in their life. And so I do think that she's getting that hate, because how can this, unattractive or mid, as they would call her, white woman, have it all? She seems to have it all right now, and they don't. Look at these same women playing on these other teams that would claim white women want to be them, yet they are the ones walking around with the hair that don't match their roots. I don't understand. What are you mad at? Are you mad because Caitlin's entire team could just pull their hair in a ponytail and just be who they are, whereas these other teams had to get prepared and find somebody else's hair and glue it on and make sure the glue doesn't come loose with the sweat? And I just can't even imagine everything that they had to go through, but yet they will say white women want to be them. I mean, it's looking totally different for me, but why do you hate her so much? Because the hair that grows out of her scalp doesn't match yours? I watched people all weekend be upset with me. And it's like, okay, I thought we should protect all women. I guess we only protect women when they lean left or when they're part of the alphabet mafia, because what happened to protect all women? I'm a Black woman with my natural hair, with no false eyelashes, no pointed fingernails, not putting Black men down, but not this Black woman. I've just been shocked at the amount of racism that Black people claim they don't have, that they have shown just through this whole Caitlin Clark phenomenon. The hate is almost unbelievable.
What's your take on Dawn Staley's religious comments?
Well, I did say, if she is weak and God is strong, then if she is gay, then he is straight. I try not to judge someone's spiritual beliefs. I do turn, I may give it a side eye simply because of some of the things that I've seen her do or say in the past. If she is lesbian, which I don't know if she is or if she's not. I've heard she is dating a female. I don't know. Of course, I would say that's not possible to be in willful sin and not willing to change, not even seeing that something is wrong with that, to me, and lining up with Christianity. But I see people do it every day. And as we were talking about, the Black church condones it. You know, the Black church, I truly believe, will be Sunday morning talking about this whole Black people won. I don't know why this seems like a victory for Black people because South Carolina won, but that's the way they look at it. Black people won. Black people that had to get up this morning and go to their same job, not cashing in on Dawn Staley's check, not getting the recognition that these young women are getting. Some of them never even seen the inside of a college, but they believe this is a victory for Black people. And it just shows where we are. We like these type of displays of victory. Same people that wanted Aunt Jemima off the syrup bottle, Uncle Ben's off the rice bottle. We like these low displays of we're important because so many people are unhappy and miserable. They have nothing to brag about for real in their own lives. So they have to take these things that have nothing to do with them as personal accomplishments. And if you didn't pick up a basketball on this South Carolina team, this was not a personal accomplishment for you. But Black people are so many times intellectual midgets that this feels like a personal accomplishment.
Remember, Shemeka said that, not me.
Yeah.
She said that.
You just laughed at it.
I may agree, but she said it. I mean, because it's the racial idolatry. If we left the racial idolatry out, our IQ level and level of accomplishment would skyrocket. I'm just telling you. If we just say, okay, let's don't evaluate anything just for 1 week. Let's don't evaluate anything based on skin color. Let's just evaluate things based on facts. Watch how many different decisions you would make. And so if you went into a game and there was one coach that was saying, you know what, I think men should be allowed to compete against girls. Just on the logic, you would be like, that's crazy. I got a daughter, I got sisters, I got nieces and nephews, I got nieces. I'm not for that. That's crazy. Once you throw the skin color into it, you go, well, not my niece will be good enough. It won't bother her. My daughter, she don't even like sports anyway, so who cares? Once you throw the skin color, we start coming up with excuses and rationalizations. Mm-hmm. But if we remove skin color, everybody would be like, hey, this is crazy.
Emmanuel Acho tried that, and that dude got crushed.
That is true.
Yeah, nobody cared that I had a problem with Michael Thomas. No one cared. Anytime I tweeted about him, when I said, one fish, two fish, red fish, I can't even remember the joke that I said now, but I was constantly on him every time he hopped in a pool and competed against women. I didn't have all of these black people.
William Thomas.
Bill Thomas. You said Michael Thomas.
Okay, I knew it was a guy.
For the Saints.
Yeah, that's probably. That's what I said. What did the Saints receiver do? He did lay down on the Saints after getting a big contract. I was like, she's upset with that.
I'm sorry.
No, you're talking about the swimmer. You're talking about the swimmer. Yeah.
Yes, the swimmer. Nobody had a problem with me disliking the fact that he was competing against women. I didn't have all of these black people in my mentions saying, you're transphobic or you're against your own people, or nobody said that. I keep the very same stance, but it's going against what a black woman said. And now all of a sudden, that's not even a problem on the collegiate level. There's only 33 transgenders playing on the college level. Now all of a sudden, it's not a big deal. But nobody had an issue with me thinking it was a big deal months ago. We're so disingenuous as a people.
I love the argument that like, hey, this only affects such a small number of people. Why are we talking about it? And then I go, okay, unarmed black men affects a very small percentage of black people, and it affects virtually none who comply with the police. If you're black and comply with the police, the chances of you getting shot by the police is almost non-existent. So, but we can care about that small, tiny percentage of people, but not care about the tiny percentage of transgender athletes who are trying to, and again, once real money gets tossed around like it is now, the WNBA or the Big Three saying $5 million for Caitlin Clark, now that you can make $300,000 or $250,000 in the WNBA, and that will likely escalate out of some guilt. There will be some men who do the math and say, now here I'm sitting at home making $40,000. I can go play 25 games during the summer and make $300,000 or $400,000. Yeah, I'll put a dress
surgery.
On. Yeah, I get to keep my pecker. I get to go into a locker room, and there, of the 15 women on the roster, maybe one of them might service me. Yeah. It's just like
great. I get to shower with naked women. I get paid way more, and I get to keep all my equipment.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Somebody's going to take that deal. Several are going to take that deal because
Leah Thomas already did.
Yeah, but it's like. And there's no shame to it. You'll be applauded, celebrated. Someone's going to take that deal and
it already happened. Riley Gaines is adamant that this whole thing, that William Thomas from the start, this was always, I want to see more naked women. This is an easy way to do it.
I tell you what, hey, I'm about to crack a bad joke. Shemeka, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you.
See you, Shemeka.
I got a couple of more questions for TJ. I want to, because you told me this morning. I did not know this, but Dawn Staley's been on a blocking spree.
Yeah. Well, she's blocked you. You know that. But she blocked Riley Gaines and Clay Travis.
Huh. Now she blocked me probably a year ago. But you're saying this all happened in the past.
Yeah, after the transgender comments, Clay obviously posted on his because it was from Outkick, and then Riley has been all over it because that's her whole deal, and so blocked them both. I checked, I'm not blocked yet, which means I'm not doing a good enough job.
Well, you're not. Maybe after today's show, you have a chance.
All right.
So I guess I was ahead of the curve on that one. I guess she knew I would not be on. Well, anyway, I don't blame.
Soon everybody's gonna be blocked by Dion too. You're just a little ahead of the curve on these people.
Last thing, I want to play Keyshawn Jackson. I guess this morning on Undisputed is arguing that Dawn Staley should be the next coach of who was it, the Hornets or who? It was some. Let's play the clip and then I'll tell me.
I wanted her at USC to coach our men's team. When our guy left and went to SMU, first thing I said, man, they need to go get Dawn Staley. I said it on the show here. They got to go get Dawn Staley. In this situation with Dawn Staley, she would be the first. She would set just a whole nother standard of doing the way to do things. That's the only reason why I would be like, yeah, girl, go get that. Mm-hmm. Go get it. And like you said, the respect level, it's players are going to listen to her. Been there, done it, and she has the respect. You're not bringing in some crackerjack box off the streets and saying, oh, we just hired this guy. No, you got somebody that everybody respects and loves, and they'll pay attention to detail. She can coach. Yeah. That's the thing. She can coach regardless if it is a female game or a men game. X's and O's are the same.
So I think he intentionally used Cracker Jack box, and he wanted to leave off Jack box and just say cracker off the street is what he wanted to say, and he didn't.
You can even coach white people to the championship.
You're not just bringing in some cracker off the street. You bringing in Dawn Staley. That's what he wanted to say. Yeah. And then he wanted Dawn Staley to coach at USC. And this is this is my problem with so many of these athletes. They've so been trained to just let me say something that will potentially be popular on Twitter. That's all they're saying. And because Keyshawn Jackson is enough of an athlete that, again, if he turns off his racial idolatry and his pandering to feminists and to black women, and if he just watched that game, and this will be my last controversial statement of today, but South Carolina, all this pretending like they were somehow magically coached to this championship. Anybody that watched that game, anybody that watched it with a slightly critical eye, that 6'7", 290-pound center, and a couple of the other girls that came off the bench, Watkins in particular, gave them such a huge rebounding advantage all season that these guys knew they could just throw up any shot that they wanted. It's going to get rebounded and put back in the bucket. It makes you more confident with any shot you take on the perimeter. You're just totally liberated and free and can shoot with confidence. And there was, I'm sorry for saying it, but it's just factual, there was no great strategy deployed in going 38-0. They had an incredible size advantage, not just in height, but in width with the Cardosa. There was no coaching clinic had. It's embarrassing that they lost to Iowa last year with the talent advantage that they had. And so Dawn Staley's not a great coach, or she hasn't proven to be a great coach. She acquires talent, and she gets out of the way. She brings her dog to practice and gets how they roll out anyway, anybody that watched that was not some strategic masterpiece that was put together.
Did you say Cardosa was 290 pounds?
He's not?
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBron's 270, so I mean, 290?
Oh, you think she's heavier than that?
No.
Did you look at her hips and thighs?
Yes. 290 pounds is Warren Sapp in his prime.
Yeah, Warren Sapp's 6'1". She's 6'7".
Yeah. What do we think the website says?
She's 6'7". They don't list her weight. Are you kidding me? But 270. You don't think she's 270?
I mean, she's bigger up 290. That's a nose tackle. Anyway.
At 6'7"? That's.
Speaking of Sapp, I knew Sapp didn't like Keyshawn, but I didn't know Keyshawn was actually retarded. And so I should have listened to Sapp when he came in. This idea that Dawn Staley did. Did you listen to how Holly Rowe at one of the quarters or halftime? Hey, what a brilliant move bringing in those freshmen. How'd you know they were going to hit those jumpers? And the real answer was, it didn't matter if they hit the jumpers or not. Cardosa was going to be standing underneath to clean it up. Just luckily they went in. There was zero. In fact, if there was any coaching acumen at all, she would have looked at what the two teams before her did and said, if we just shut down Caitlin Clark, we got a real shot at this. We don't have to do anything else. Those two other teams couldn't rebound, couldn't do anything more. She's like, we're going to get every rebound and just shut down Caitlin, and we're going to be fine. But they let Caitlin run all over the place. Had Caitlin Clark been hot yesterday, like she was in the first quarter, the rest of the game, they could have lost.
I don't think they ever let her around. Caitlin was just hot in the first quarter, and they got rebounds. The rebound and disparity happened in the second half of the first quarter, but they got some early buckets in transition early that made the first quarter look more competitive than it actually was. But it just, in my view, it's just like, man, these guys can't rebound with us. Girls, go out there and have fun. Don't do anything stupid. Don't get in some unnecessary foul trouble, Cardosa. But even if you do, it won't really, because we got some other kids that can rebound. And they're 9 players deep. The bench scoring was 37-0.
It's crazy. Which makes sense. I wouldn't play anybody on the bench.
Yeah, they did, because they couldn't. Again, O'Grady, the other thing I figured out is, let's say Stokey's a decent player. But Caitlin Clark is so advanced, she's far more advanced than her teammates, and she puts her teammates in bad spots.
Yes.
She'll throw a pass that no other girl would think to pass to, would be able to do, or create even the space and the timing to do. And then Stokey gets it and she's too close to the basket. She's not athletic enough, none of these girls are, to actually get to the rim. And so these shots are just a lot tougher. You're trying to get a layup while you're still moving, in transition, with a defender on you. But they threw it into O'Grady a couple of times, and I'm not even sure all of them were Caitlin Clark. And O'Grady's not even smart enough to realize, hey, there's a 6'7" girl when I turn around that's going to block my shot. Yeah. So let me fake it and dish it to someone else. Her 2 shots, I think, were both just swatted, like Get out of
Didn't
here.
even get out of her hand.
Yes.
She just turned around and the ball went out of bounds.
Yes.
They did figure out after a few minutes, and this is why I kind of, it would have been fun watching. They did figure out a couple times, if you pass post to post, Cardoso's only got one place to go. And they only did it 2 or 3 times, and every time it was a wide open layup. But they never figured out, they didn't go high-low post, they never swung down after they went in. All you had to do was pump fake, bounce pass into the other post, and you'd have had an easy layup.
I agree. That's a great point that I hadn't, because you're right. I remember those 2 that led to wide open layups. But I'm just telling you, the other thing, if Caitlin Clark, and this would be another reason why I think she's not coming back, but why she should. Spend another year working on that mid-range game, and then you really become unstoppable. Because some of these passes are just she don't really believe in her mid-range game.
That's right.
So she gives up the ball and tries to, you shoot this layup. But again, they're not that talented to and again, if girls could dunk, Caitlin Clark would average 15 assists per game. Because 2 or 3 of those missed layups would just be dunks.
Yes.
And that's the biggest difference in spending this much time watching women's college basketball. They miss so many layups because they can't dunk. Mm-hmm. They can't just lay the ball up over the rim or dunk it through.
Awkward angles.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
the amount of times that who's the young black girl? I just forgot her name. Just starts with a K. Anyway, that she was underneath the backboard trying to shoot those. Stolke, thank you. Yeah. The amount of times she missed at least 3 or 4 layups.
Yes.
And it's not because it's she just missed a layup. It's like, well, you're standing underneath the backboard and trying to, how'd you end up there?
Well, anyway, that may be, I'm sure Dawn Staley or maybe, the WNBA draft is next week. Mm-hmm. But I really don't think I care. And so this may be our swan song for women's basketball.
Caitlin will make some news. Something's going to happen. We're going to talk about her again. She will make, whether it's something with the big 3, there's too much money to be made off of her in the next year to not be talked about. Past that, she may disappear.
Dawn Staley will probably show up at some Black Lives Matter rally or, she'll do something racist again that'll probably make me talk about her. But I don't know. She's kind of pivoted and she's classy Dawn now.
Maybe she does want that NBA job.
Maybe she'll get an NBA job. Yep. And anyway, so that's it and that's all for us. Play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be,